Welcome to Bouquet Jazz Dance. One of the key things that came out in 1990, in 2003, a report came out by the Arts Department of Culture, Media, Sports identified all artists in the UK were trained inadequately to compete in a very highly competitive creative culture industries. They weren't trained to see themselves as a business, and I would agree with that. I, coming from the first regeneration city, Moss Side in Hume, recognise what they said, and that our regeneration, remember, was the first to start in the whole of Europe, and that was in the late 80s when it first started. So I came from that, and then what happened was, as an individual, I was taught business skills during that period, but I was also taught business skills actually by the Arts. Northwest Arts called me in as an individual after I resigned as a co-founder of a group called Gestures, to ask me to actually develop a business plan for a group I had led commercially successfully called Cantamanto from 84 to 89. Cantamanto has struggled in respect to getting funding from them. We faced unfair treatment. A lot of organisations got 150,000, 200,000 groups, drumming groups, and what happened, Cantamanto got £6,000 a year. And what happened during my time as being their arts manager, administrator, lead drummer, educator, we had done more than people had 200,000 without that funding. So anyway, they called me in to tell me that they're going to not fund Cantamanto and no more, but they will support me as an individual who was doing my work voluntary for Cantamanto as part of my cultural development. The group was a personal development group, that they would fund me to do a business plan, a 3-year business plan for the group, a sustainable strategy for the group to make money over the next few years with me being at the helm. Because I just left my group, Gestures, as a dancer who was looking to involve myself 100% in developing black arts from a perspective of arts manager, administrator, from a perspective of being a freelancer. And what happened, I decided to take up that challenge, and I created a 3-year business plan, and that was done between 88 and 89. The same time, what happened in the interim, when I was doing that, I came a leading salesman for River Island. River Island just opened a new shop, was around vintage clothes, because what happened, vintage clothes had now come commercial, and River Island was leading it. Its biggest shop in the whole of the country headhunted me. I was the leading salesman of suits for Principles for Men. I worked in retail successfully as an individual outside the realm of Gestures and Cantamanto. Successfully for many years. From the 80s, I've worked in department stores like Lewis's, Debenhams, Kendall's. I got these jobs, big jobs, working selling suits, and I was working in a place called Strangeways on a Sundays, making money from selling suits. I came to be known as a seriously exceptional suit seller as an individual. So what happened in the interim, I got a job working for River Island, and I came as leading salesman, and it was perfect because I was making a lot of money, I was saving a lot of money as an individual, as well as being a promoter outside. Anyway, I did this business plan, and the business plan was enabled by a gentleman called Adrian Mealing, and he was a former director of the Corner House. He is an exceptional arts manager, administrator himself as a person. He had massive budgets. He was running many different groups, getting 150,000 from 200,000. He helped me do the business plan, but I also went to Manchester Business School and various other places to learn, to get knowledge around developing a business. And I went to observe organisations or groups that were setting up, had a sort of business format. So in 2003, what happened, I had that business flowing idea. I did a successful business plan, but the key to the business plan was our teacher from Ghana, who was in America. We couldn't stay in Britain sustainably and get money, and so I was glad I could do it. I did an exceptional business plan, but he wanted to retire. He was in America when he came back, and he wanted to retire, so we had to disband. We didn't have a group, but I took the business plan and decided next step for me was take the business plan and become a full-time dance teacher as part of my sustainability. And what happened, I was looking at becoming a dance teacher, looking at from a perspective globally now, because UK jazz dance had been stifled in the UK. And what happened through the business plan, through the research, what happened was I knew we told the world there's more more better opportunities for us to develop our dance form. That happened to Lindy Hop. So, for example, Lindy Hop got a bigger promotion when it toured the world. There's more opportunities. So a gentleman called, so that's an example, a gentleman called Frank Manning and Norman Miller were leading Lindy Hop dancers in America. What happened was when they toured, they got sustainable work because there was more support, because Lindy Hop was being stifled in America. But outside America, everybody wanted to develop it. And what happened in the 80s, there was a revival of Lindy Hop, and they were getting loads of work, and they got work through into the 90s. That's how much from the 80s into the 90s, as an individual into the 2000s, people got work, still got work. Lindy Hop. So one of the things I knew that when he did research was our dance or Cantamanto success would be outside the country, not inside the country. Yes, we could have tours here, but successfully touring like the North Americans, the rest of the world, Asia, Europe, Africa, America itself would give us more success. So I did this business plan. So what happened, I went to Bedfordshire Higher Education College to a foundation to dance and teacher training because I knew I needed validity. I needed to raise the status of my own art form, which was Blue UK Jazz Dance, which I was going to, my own jazz dance style, and the dance style of other dancers. I wanted to raise the prestige of it because many dancers didn't do research, and there was a need for dance appreciation knowledge, there was a need for a dissertation, there was need for masters, there was need for anthropological research, etymology research on UK jazz dance, and I wanted to do that. So it led to me to go to Bedford to do a foundation degree in dance and sports teacher training, where I learned about teaching around the world. It was very much coming from a business perspective and very much an exceptional perspective because I came from sports and dance. And sports opened a bigger opportunity. When I went to Bedford, sports opened me to the world of training, and that world was sports science and dance science around the world was a huge thing happening in Bedfordshire College, Loughborough. Nothing that was happening in Manchester. Nobody knew about dance. Sports science and dance science was not happening on the ground in Manchester when I was here. So I was in the right place. I was travelling with people through Europe, seeing what dance science could do, because I had not only my dance, but there was training behind my dance, and that was needed if I was going to travel the world. Cut a long story short, I came back to Manchester, and a new thing came up in developing my own festival around my own dance, jazz dance. So that came up a thing. I did a successful festival called Stepping Out around my dancing. So I had my own festival now as well. As an individual, what happened, I got injured, and what happened, my life changed. I got attacked in Bedford. So I came back, and basically I used dance for healing. So dance for healing came a huge thing, and in the 90s, dance and health came a huge thing. But I was ahead of the grain already doing that. I got sent into Europe, and as an individual, as a European representative, I talked about dance in the broadest terms in the sense of how young people can engage in dance, which was from a sports perspective, from a dance perspective, but also from a health perspective and a community development perspective. So what happened, I had experience in dance and health, dance and healing, dance and education, dance to commercial industries, dance in the community. Do you understand? So I had this whole spectrum when I went into Europe, and I already done projects. I wasn't a talker. I was a talker, walker, and shouter about projects, and I had them as examples on video, etc., etc., which made me stand out, and a lot of people wanted to work with me. I started to have a lot of powerful exchanges with youth workers in Europe because of the work I had done. I'd done this work, and what was good was when I went into Europe, I was the only youth worker without no masters. I was the only youth worker actually with no youth work qualifications. I'd done youth work as a volunteer. That's how I got to learn about it. I'd done youth arts work, which is working with specialists, as me using my art, with specialists in health, specialists in technology, specialists in science. I worked alongside individuals. Then I worked as a youth arts development worker, because when I went to Bedford, I became a development worker, and that was all around raising money for the youth club, because the youth club had problems with what they're doing. They had a youth festival which was in Bedford every 2 years. My work was raising money, and I successfully got them to raise money through doing certain key things around dance. And we decided they're going to create a business plan around that, and I created a business plan around that as an individual. So, cut a long story short, when the Department of Culture and Media Sports said all artists had been trained inadequately, they were trained inadequately because I recognised it. as a person, because many artists are not arts administrators, and because of doing arts management administration, that is business of the arts from the beginning. And I got involved in both the commercial stage and the community stage, and it's important for people to understand. And I was creating opportunities for artists to develop themselves, because I was platforming them. A lot of artists, as a grassroots artist, I was an individual, recognised that they weren't getting the commercial knowledge and they weren't getting the professional experiences I got from Cantamanto. Cantamanto brought me into the mainstream of working alongside South Bank, negotiating Cantamanto's fee for South Bank, Arnolfini, the Royal Ballet, etc. I got opportunities to involve that as well in gestures. I got access to performing at the Royal Ballet, Royal Festival Hall, Midland Arts Centre. All these things were basically mainstream contacts, commercial understanding, and many people from the ground never had that as an individual. So when the 2003 came up and the Dance Department of Culture, Media, Sports said this, I agreed with it, because what happened by 2003, guess what? 2003, 99.9% of all the cultural groups in the UK, the urban and the cultural and